Hey guys, welcome to Mrs. G's Sewing Space. I'm glad to be with you today, or I'm glad that you're with me today for a change. Today we're going to be talking about altering pant hems. So I have a pair of pants of my husband's he wants to wear to work, and it's a little too long, so I'm going to shorten the pant legs so that it fits him better and it doesn't look all clumpy around his ankle. So I'm going to go ahead and roll into the video so you can see it, and I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, here we go. So what you see me doing currently is taking an old pair of pants of my husband's that he really likes, and that's the perfect length for him. And I am going to measure his inseam. And his inseam is that seam that runs on the inside of your legs from your crotch down to your ankle. And I'm going to take my measurement with a measuring tape. And I'm going to use that measuring tape and measure from the seam line at the crotch all the way down to the hem. Now you can see here with these new pants, these brown olive color pants, these are kind of like a khaki, not khaki, more like a olive green kind of color pants. These pants, I measured out the 29 inches, and then I measured how much from the bottom of the pant leg to that 29-inch mark there was. And for these pair of pants, it was 2 inches. So I measured 2 inches all the way around from the bottom of the pant leg, and this is where I will know that the new bottom of the pant leg should be. Now, before I picked out anything else, I took my time and I picked out the hem. The hem will give me an indication of how much I need to leave extra on the bottom to be able to hem up the pants so they look as professional, as much like the original pants as I can get it to be. So using my measuring tape again, I measured from the bottom of the original hem. It's going to be about 1 inch. So it looks like it's about a 1/2 inch per roll. So we're going to add an extra inch to the bottom of that 29-inch mark all the way around the pant leg so that we know where to cut. And here I am going back remeasuring just to make sure that my marks were right. And as you can see, they were slightly off by just a smidge, but those smidges count for a lot. So I am using my ruler and I'm lining up my marks, and I'm drawing the line that will be the bottom of the pant leg once it's complete. Once everything's all done and hemmed up, that will be the bottom of the leg. Now I'm also going and marking 1 inch below that, and that's my cut line. So that mark right there is my cut line. That's where I'm going to cut the pants. Now it's time for the scissors. There we go. And I'm not just cutting straight across, I'm cutting on the line itself. So as you can see, single layer of fabric, and I'm cutting all the way around the pant leg on the line. So this is about a 1/2 inch added to the back of the leg to allow for movement of the pants as the person walks. So this is like hemming a skirt. You want a little more in the back than you do the front. So at this point, I am adding an extra 2 inches above the hem line because that's where I'm going to start picking out at. So I'm going to unpick my seams from those marks all the way down to the bottom. Now the inside seam is a simple seam with serged edges. The seam that's on the outside of the leg is a seam, but those serged edges are then sewed down flat so that the seam lays flat. So you're going to have extra stitching to pick out usually on pants like that, like blue jeans and slacks, those type of pants. So you'll have all this extra stitching, which you also need to compensate for when you sew the side seams back together. So as you see, I'm relining up the side seams. Everything that I just picked out, I'm lining up the fabric again. And I'm making sure the edges at the bottom, the cut edges, are aligned. And I am going to mark, oh, I gotta close the scissors so they don't poke anything. And I'm going to use my ruler and mark from the seam line to the corner of the cut edges. So this little extra smidge of width is going to give me enough extra fabric to turn up the hem without any problems. So like this picture says, sewing from the first arrow to the second arrow, the beginning of the seam to the corner of the cut fabric, you're adding space to the width of the leg to make room to turn the hem. So it gives you just a smidge, but it's enough to, when you roll your hem up, to make room so there's not wrinkling. So I'm going to do the outside seam now, and because this seam was sewn and then the seam allowance sewn down, so that's a flat seam, you just need to double check and make sure that you sew correctly and that you mark it correctly. You want to go from the seam, not the serged edge, but the actual seam line, and you'll be doing the same thing. So right there I'm checking, I pulled a string. I wasn't sure how far up it went. So now I need to, I'm picking out the part where the seam allowance is sewn down to the pant leg, but I pulled a thread and I accidentally pulled the seam out further than I intended. So I'm going to have to go back and correct that when it's time to sew. So also re-sew the seam to that mark that's 2 inches above my hemline, and then from that mark from above my hemline to the corner, I'll do it exactly like I did on the other side, on the inside seam. And this is the outside seam. So got my ruler there from the original seam line. I'm marking down to that corner of the cut seam so we can add that little extra smidge to be able to roll up the hem. So now I'm gonna go sew. I'm back from sewing. And from this point, I am going to go back and I'm going to serge the edges. Now in my alteration for my husband, I didn't go back and tack down those serged seam allowances on the outside edge of the pant. I just left those alone. But I did serge them on the inside so that they won't fray. Okay, so here I am finger pressing the edge, the bottom edge of the pant leg. And I'm rolling up my seam allowance. See, I rolled it up twice. I folded it in half and then I rolled it again so that the bottom edge of that pant leg is where I marked it on the inside and the outside. So I'm doing a finger press because it kind of keeps things in place for me while I roll up the edges. And I'm going to do that all the way around, making sure I fold on where I marked. And then that's the first roll and the second roll. I think my hemming ended up being just a little bit smaller than the original hem. But it's not really noticeable. Nobody's going to notice the bottom of your pant legs unless they're high waters. So even if you do make a minor mistake down here, it's okay. Nobody's going to see it anyways. But if you're a professional, make sure you do it right first time. I did move my pins to the other side so that when I put it on my sewing machine, I can remove my pins easily without having to be in awkward positions to pull my pins out. Okay, there we go. So I've got everything pinned, my hem. There are no wrinkles because we sewed out and gave ourselves a little bit extra. We are now wrinkle-free. I have sewn up I have hemmed my pants, sewn up the bottom, and you can see the edges there where I serged the edges. And you will see some marks there in the original pant leg. So you can kind of see where the old seam line was and where the new seam line is. That is noticeable. It'll eventually wear out over time and it won't be so noticeable. It's noticeable now because I just unpicked it. But as the pants get washed, it won't be noticeable. So right now I'm just cleaning up, pulling out the loose threads, cleaning up and make sure everything is nice and neat in the pant leg. Okay, so there you go. Both pant legs are, you do the second pant leg the exact same way as you do the first one, and you can still see, the marks at the bottom of my pant legs where my original mark was.
Hey guys, well I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you guys watching, and I am working on the next video. I am going to be altering some more clothing. I have a skirt that's a 3X. I got on sale at Walmart for like $2. It's a linen skirt, and I'm debating on whether just to cut it down into a skirt or convert it into a pair of maybe like a palazzo pant or something, an elastic waist palazzo pant. It would look really comfy and airy, especially for the summer. And I also have another skirt I'm going to alter. I'll probably just take it in and I might do a video on that. I did see the community request out there that I put on my community tab. I was asking if you guys wanted to do the needle felting or the tie-dye. Tie-dye seems to be a big hit the last time I looked at the tab. I will be doing tie-dye. It is coming, but I still have to save up to purchase the things that I'm going to tie-dye. So like the t-shirts, and I wanted to do like a backdrop of tie-dye, so maybe a couple of yards of cotton muslin or something like that. I kind of want to do a yardage, but we'll see what happens. But it's coming. I've just got to continue prepping for it. I've got the dye, I just need the items to dye. So that is coming, and I have a couple of other things coming. I appreciate you guys supporting me, and I will see you in the next video. Ba-da-ba.